Confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those are attending in online. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those are attending in online. Please, my voice is clear to all of you guys. Please confirm to me. Am I audible? Yeah, thank you. All right. Good morning, guys. And check it what we completed there in the last session. All right, sir. I think so. We understood scopes related topic in last class. And before this, I'm telling to you in Java, in Spring applications, when we prepare bean classes, then we have to provide that bean details, bean classes information to the IOC container or not. Understand my point clearly? So whenever we prepare these bean classes, then we have to tell to the IOC container, this is my bean class. In this location, this bean class is available. That every information about that bean class, we have to be provided to the IOC container or not. To provide these bean details, this bean information to the IOC container, there are three ways. Three approaches are available to provide beans details to the IOC container. What are the three approaches we are going to follow to provide these details to the IOC container? What are the three approaches there? First one is XML based configurations. Second one is Java based configurations. And the third one is annotations based configurations. Overall, three approaches are available. First one is like what there? XML based configurations. Second one is annotation, that means Java based configurations. And third one is what there? Annotation based configurations. Out of these three types of configurations, what we completed up to now, XML based configurations we completed. Up to now, how many, what we completed there? XML based configurations we completed. Then we are going to understand now Java based configurations. If you observe this XML based configurations, where bean tag is available. Inside this bean tag, next one is ID attribute, name attribute, class attribute, scope attribute we have seen. Where class attribute is for the sake of providing fully qualified name of the bean class. ID attribute and name attribute, there is an interview question. What is the difference between name attribute and ID attribute? That both we completed. Then what is the difference between name attribute and ID attribute? Actually, name attribute is able to take multiple identities for the bean, whereas ID attribute will take only single identity. But how we are able to provide multiple identities along with name attribute? No, either by providing comma or by providing semicolon or by providing spaces. Okay, fine. Where if you provide multiple values to the name attribute to provide multiple identities for the bean, where first one is acting as an ID, second things are acting as like what there, next things are acting as alias names. Next one, is it possible to provide alias names for the beans explicitly? Is it possible to define alias names to the beans explicitly? Yes, it is possible. Just by using which tag here? No, alias tag. By using alias tag, we are able to prepare alias names. All of you get my point or not? Okay, fine. Then after that, after completion of this scope attribute. Scope attribute, in a scope attribute, we are able to define scopes to the bean. How long that bean object is going to be available, how many bean objects are going to be created, that everything is depending on the scope attribute only. What are the various scopes are possible here? What exactly the scopes are available for scope attribute? No, nearly 5 or 6 number of scopes are existed. Right, first one is like what there, singleton, prototype. What next one? Request scope, session scope, global session scope, application scope, and WebSocket scope. So then at present in the standalone applications, only two types of scopes are possible. What two types of scopes are possible there? Singleton and a prototype. What is this singleton and what is this prototype? Actually, singleton scope is what there, per definition in the Spring configuration file, one bean object will be created. Same bean class if we define again and again, 3 times if we define, no, 3 bean objects will be created. Understand my point here? For a definition in a Spring configuration file, one bean object. Next one, what is this prototype scope? No, for every call of bean, for every call of get bean method, a separate bean object will be created. Okay, in the same way, request scope is what there? Request scope is nothing but what there? For every request object, a separate bean object. Session scope is what there? For every session object, a separate bean object. What is this global session scope now? For every portlet, a separate bean object. Next one after that. What is this application scope there now? Application scope in the sense for every servlet context object, a separate bean object. Next one is what is this WebSocket scope now? For every WebSocket lifecycle, a separate bean object will be created. So like this, number of things are available, but out of all this, only only singleton and prototype scopes are possible for standalone applications. The remaining scopes will be utilized in a Spring Web module for web applications. Then after that, is it possible to define our own scopes for our Spring Beans? No. Yes, it is possible to define our own scopes in a Spring Beans, but how it is possible there? How it is possible there? Just by using two things. One is scope interface, and other one is what there? Custom scope configurer. By using scope interface and by using custom scope configurer, there we are able to define our own scopes. That very good example I've given. In the last example, I shown that thread scope. Thread scope I defined. I applied for that thread scope to our bean objects there. By that we are getting some clarity. Leave this content here. Total point here we completed now. Now observe carefully. All of you observe carefully. Up to now, we have used XML configurations to provide metadata about our beans. To expose metadata. Metadata is nothing but data about the data. To provide the description about our beans. To provide a description about our beans to the IOC container, we have used XML documents. But there are some problems with XML documents. What are the problems with XML documents? Can now try to observe this clearly. First one, number one, we have to learn XML technology. You know already XML is an outside of the Java, not the part of the Java. Outside technology we have to learn. That's one extra burden. Next one, if we use XML documents in our application, heavyweightness will be increased. Why heavyweightness? No, maybe more execution time will be taken. More burden will come to our applications. Why? Because whenever we are using XML documents, there we have to maintain some parsing mechanism. By using the parsing mechanism only, we are able to read the data from XML documents. Understand my point or not? So definitely burden will be increased to our application. To overcome these problems, that means burden, and instead of learning that XML technology separately, to overcome these problems, there we are able to have two options, two alternatives are available. One is annotation based, another one is what there? Java based. Annotation based and Java based. So annotation based is a little bit depending on XML in the case of Spring applications, but Java based is a purely alternative for XML documents. Java based is an alternative for XML documents. So understand my point here. So Java based configurations is an alternative for XML based configurations. XML based configuration. That means what's the meaning of it now? We can remove Spring configuration file. We can remove Spring configuration file from Spring applications. We can remove Spring configuration file from Spring applications by using what? By using Java based configurations. That's it. So to remove XML configurations in Spring applications, there we have to use like what? No, Java based configurations. That means what is the idea behind this Java based configurations? No, the idea will be very clear. Observe carefully. To provide beans configuration details, configurations details to IOC containers. To provide beans configuration details to IOC container, we will prepare a Java class, and a Java method, and a Java method to prepare bean objects. What is the idea? What is the basic idea behind these Java based configurations? No, to provide beans configuration details. To provide beans configuration details, just we are going to use a Java class and we are going to use a Java method to prepare bean objects. That prepared bean objects will be provided to our respective applications. Sir, all of you are getting my point or not? So this is what exactly the point here I'm telling you. But how we are able to use the Java class, that how it is possible here now. Right, sir. Now here steps I'm telling to you regarding these Java based configurations. First one is like what there, prepare Java bean class or classes as per the application requirement. Now tell me in the previous cases what we used to do now after preparing Java bean classes there. Next one is what there, prepare XML configuration file or not. We have to prepare what there, XML configuration file to configure bean components. Am I right or not? But now our requirement is what there, not to use XML. Prepare a Java configuration class. Prepare a Java configuration class to provide what? To provide bean configurations. Prepare a Java configuration class to provide bean configurations. Third one is like what there, prepare test application. Prepare which applications there? No, test applications. Prepare test application to test the application, to test the code, to test this bean components and everything. Okay, fine. Now here, how to prepare Java bean class? Now this is as usual. In the project SRC folder, we are going to prepare a package, and inside this package, we are able to prepare bean class. Okay, then how to prepare a bean configuration file? That means how to prepare a Java configuration class. How we are able to prepare a Java configuration class? Observe carefully. To prepare a Java configuration class, we have to use the following two annotations. We are going to use two annotations. What are the two annotations here we are going to use there? First one is like what there, @configuration. First annotation is what there, @configuration. Just above the class, we have to use this annotation. Still, I'm not telling annotation based. Annotation based is different. In a dependency injection, I will introduce that annotation based. But now purely I'm using Java based. No XML file. In place of that, directly we are preparing Java file. Through this Java class, we are going to provide the required bean objects. And second one is @bean annotation. So this will be used for configuration class, and this will be used for a Java method to generate Java method which is generating bean object. If we use this configuration annotation, then only IOC container will come to this class. IOC container will recognize this is a configuration class. There only configuration details are available. If we use @bean class, only IOC container will understand that there is a method. That method is generating bean objects. So that container will take that bean objects and container will supply that bean objects to our respective Java application. If you are not using these two, container will not understand that class is a configuration class, that method is a bean method. Container will not understand that. If you use these two, then only container will understand that. That's one point here. Next one after that. Now tell me, Java based configuration is a regular configuration or non-regular configuration? Non-regular. Why? Because regular concept is what they're XML based. I get my point or not? If the configuration details are available in XML file, that's why we are using an implementation of the application context like what there, class path XML application context. Our bean configuration details are available in an XML file. That's why we are using what there, class path XML application context. But now our configuration details are available where? In XML file or in a Java file, in a Java program. inside the Java program. So because of that reason, we should not use application context directly. Application context only. But implementation should be like what there? What is that implementation here? No, that implementation should be here. We have to provide like what? That implementation should be annotation config application context. What we have to use there? Annotation config application context. That is an implementation class we have to provide in place of like what there? XML class path XML application context. What is the container here? We have to use there. No, annotation config application context we have to use. Then only we are able to achieve our requirement. Yes, all of you are getting clarity. No, shall we go for an example on the basis of this? Overall, two changes in our regular programming. One is remove XML configuration file. In place of that, prepare a configuration class, Java class, where class we have to take app config something else. It will be annotated with configuration. Then prepare a Java method for each and every bean class. Inside this Java method, we have to create an object for the bean. We have to return that object, and where connotate that method with what they know @bean. Then automatically that method is acting as a bean method. It will produce a bean object for the IOC container. These are things here we have to understand. Next one is in place of using class path XML config application context. In place of that, directly we have to use what there? Annotation config application context. If we perform these two changes, then we can make our program with Java configurations. Let us see this, how we are able to provide the Java configurations here. How it is possible to provide Java configuration. Let us see this content here. First of all, let me open IntelliJ IDEA. Guys, I'm giving these examples on IntelliJ IDEA, but we can use that Eclipse also. In Eclipse, I shown how to prepare user-defined library and how to use that user-defined library. Everything I've used there. Right, sir. Now here, I want to prepare file new project. Then we have to give some project details. First one is I want to give the name of this project is what there? app11. Okay, then everything is okay and click on create button. This window or new window? Okay, this window. Previous project is gone, the new project will come to the same window. Now this is Java project, but I have to make this project as a Spring project or not? To make this project as Spring project, then what we have to do? Right click here, right click on project. Next one is like what there? Open module settings or else F4. Then here dependencies plus a symbol, libraries, Spring file. If already created that library, add selected, apply and OK button. Now this project is acting as what there? Spring project. Okay, let me prepare a bean component as usual. Let me prepare a bean component. No, new. Just I want to take a package. What is that package there? Com dot Durgasoft dot app11 dot beans. Then inside these beans now, then we have to use new Java class here I want to take. What is that class here I want to take? There no product class I want to take. Product class. Some class name, any class name here. No. Inside this product class, I want to declare some details. What details here I want to provide there? Private string product ID, private string product name. Then what next one here? Private int product cost. 3 members here I have taken. Observe carefully. Anyway, otherwise later I will provide these details here. Don't worry for it. These details are not required immediately. Now let me take one simple method here. Public string get product details. Get the product details. That method here we provided. Now here what I'm trying to say there, return product details. Some message here we provided. That's it. Now this is my Java bin product class here I have taken. Inside this get the product details method I have taken. Now inside this method I provided written product details. Something else can be provided. That's okay, fine. This is like what I'm telling there, product.java. Next one is after that, I need to provide configuration details or not. What configuration details here we have to provide there? If it is XML, then we have to prepare XML file. If it is Java, then we have to provide like what there, no, Java class. Right click on it and new. Observe carefully now here I want to take a package, no? Then what is this package name here? Package name would be com dot Durgasoft dot app11 dot config. As it is, my package name would be same config. Inside this package, we are going to provide some configuration details. Inside this config, now here what we have to do there, new. Then what we have to take, no, a Java class here we have to take again. What is this Java class here? App config. My Java class name is what there? App config. Application config. Right, sir. App config is provided. If you want to make it is a configuration class, now it is a normal Java class. But if you want to make it as a configuration class, there we have to use a separate annotation. What is the annotation here? We have to use there configuration, not configurable. Then what is the annotation here? We have to use there configuration. arg.spring framework.context.annotation dot configuration. Now this class is acting as what there configuration class. Almost all this is equivalent to a configuration file. Spring config.xml file is no, almost all this is equal to that configuration. That's okay, fine. Now inside this configuration class now, we have to declare a method to create object for the bin and to return object for the bin, object of that particular bin. So for the purpose, we are going to take a method. That method would be public. What is our bin component actually? Product. Am I right or not? Product is our bin component. Am I right or not? Public product. Now observe clearly. Product, get the product. Now the method name is like what they know, get the product, or maybe this public product. Product is a written type here. Now just I want to provide some name. What is the name of this method here? No, say for example, get the product. Method name public product, get the product. Now what this method has to do? No, this method has to create product object. It has to return that product object, and simply here I want to say like what there, or else maybe simply product is equal to new product. That's okay. Then after that, here what we have to do there, return product, semicolon. Okay, sir. Now this class app config class is what their configuration class that IOC container can understand, but it doesn't know whether this get product method is returning product object or not. It is not aware whether this product method is returning product object or not. So if you want to make this method if you want to make this method to generate the product object to the IOC container, there we have to use one separate there we have to use a separate like what there bin. What you have to provide there bin arg.spring framework.context.annotation.bin @bin. Right, sir. Now this class is configuration class where the method get product method is able to create product object for IOC container. Nice. Now tell me what we are able to prepare now. Next one is what there configuration details we provided, bin details we provided. Next one is what test application we have to prepare or not. There we have to go for like what there, right click on src and a new, there we have to provide a package. What is this package here? We are able to provide there com dot Durgasoft.app11.test. Right, sir. Insert this test package, right click here and the new a separate Java class here we have to take. That would be like what is the test class. Now insert this test class. What we require, sir? Now tell me. We require main method. Insert the main method. Now tell me. You only tell me. I need to use like what their application context. Context is equal to. Then what I have to use there? New. Now here what we have to do there? Now tell me. Annotation config application context is available or not? The very first one, annotation config application context. Then here what we have to provide here? If we do like this, annotation config application context, is there any requirement to provide any parameter here? Any parameter is required here? Args are required or not required? Right, sir. Okay, open it. Let it remove this. Not required to provide anything. Let me check it. No. Then after that, after getting this application context there, I have to get my bean object or not? What we have to get there? Product. Product here we have to get product. Product is equal to, then what we have to do there? Context. Context dot. Then what method here we have to use there as is get a bean method here we have to call or not? Now observe carefully. Get a bean method. Context dot get a bean method. Okay, fine. Get a bean string. Then why it is existed? No. No, we need a method which is not same as this. Okay. Get a bean method I required. Right, sir. Get a bean method I required there. Now inside this get a bean method, we have to take a string. Inside the string only here we require. Just wait for it. String we have to take. Inside the string, we have to provide that method name. In app config, whatever the method here we have used there, that method name is acting as an ID attribute. See, if you want to get a bean object, we need to provide its identity to the get bean method or not. So here also, in the case of Java based configuration, whatever the method name here we declared for generating a particular bean object, that method name we have to provide there. Method name is acting as like what there is acting as an ID attribute or name attribute, whatever it may be. Now observe carefully here what we have to do there. That one, what is that name here now? Get a product. What we are providing there? Get a product we provided cast to product. As usual, regular concept only. But your name attribute or ID attribute is what there in app config. No, that is a get product. Get product is what their method name. Which method is returning this particular bean object? That method name is acting as like what their ID attribute. Okay, fine. Right. Next one. What next one? Then after that, whenever we are getting product object, then what we have to do there? Now, out system.out.println of product dot get product details method here we have to take. Get the product details method here we have to take. That's it. Now automatically here we are getting the content here. Now let's observe this clearly. Now let me execute this. Whether this program is running successfully or not, that we have to check. Not to worry for this. Now here I'm doubtful about this particular one without having parameter it is provided there. Now let me check it. If the program is running successfully, automatically annotation config application context IOC container will search for the configuration class on the base of configuration and on the base of bean annotations. It will do that. Okay, if it is giving any exception there, we will check the possibility. But I think so it will be executed. Now let me check this. Right, sir. Now okay, right click here and run test.main. Don't worry. I'll give some information here. Class not found exception we are getting. Observe clearly arg.spring framework dot. What is this, sir? AOP dot target source is not existed. So what's the meaning of it? No. AOP library is required or not? Okay. Then another thing here we are getting there. What about another one here? Here also be target source, something else AOP. So it shows very clearly if you want to use Java based configurations, no, what is required? AOP library is required or not? Tell me how we are able to provide AOP library. Let us come for this. Where is our library actually? Right click here, then go for like what there? Open module settings. Insert this open module setting dependencies. Now insert this dependencies. Then what is available here now? All right, sir. Now here Spring 5 lib is available or not? Insert this Spring 5 lib. Then what we have to provide? 1 minute. Global libraries. Right here we are getting all the jar files or not? If we select global libraries, we are getting all the libraries. Now Spring 5 lib is available where it is coming all the things. Where plus or minus symbols are available. So if you want to add any jar file here, just we have to add that. Click on plus symbol. If we click on plus symbol, then automatically we are able to get the dialog box to open our content here. Now inside this E drive, next one is what their softwares. Next one is a Spring. Inside this Spring framework 5.3.9. Inside this Lips. Inside this Lips, first one is AOP or not? AOP. Click on it. AOP we add it. Now AOP is coming or not? AOP is coming here. Then what we have to do here now? Apply and OK button. Now let us check this here. In external libraries, in Spring file lib, AOPs are available or not, that we have to check here. AOP is coming or not coming there. Second one is AOP. Now it is coming there. That's okay, fine. So are you understanding this? How to edit our library? How to add a new jar file to a library? Right, sir. Now okay. Now after adding this new jar file, now we have to execute our application there. Now we have to run our application. Now what we have to do there? Click on this run button. Now let us check this clearly. Now what we are getting? One minute. Illegal state exception. Arg.spring framework context.application annotation config application context has not been refreshed yet. Get product. No. Right, sir. 1 minute. Now here I need to provide like what there. If it is a case, right. If we provide app config.x.class. Wait, sir, I'll give more clarity. Don't worry. Yeah, I thought of it, but I thought it may be identifying that minimum, but anyway, it is required. What I have done there now, tell me what I have done there. To this annotation config application context, we need to provide some input. What is that input now? Which class is a configuration class? It's a dot class file name here we have to provide. Answer my point or not? Otherwise, it will not search for app configuration class. App configuration class is able to search when we provide app config dot class as a parameter to annotation config application context constructor. To this, we need to provide this app config dot class. Then only application context or annotation config application context will search for the configuration call with the name app config, where it will recognize at the rate configuration. There it will recognize the method whenever we are calling like what their get bean method. Whenever we are calling get bean method, here also we provided name get product is a name. On the base of that, annotation config application context will search for get product method to get a product object here. Where product object is created, that product object reference we returned. That product object is coming to this product here. From this product we are calling get the product details. That's it. Now this is a way to provide like what their app config. That means Java based configurations. Good. Listen carefully. All of you guys, observe carefully. For example, in XML configurations, we are able to provide some properties data. Inside the bean components, we are going to take some properties. Am I right or not? We are going to take some properties. Say, for example, inside my product now, instead of taking this get a product details, instead of taking like this, just I want to take some properties. Private string product ID. Next one is like what there? Private string product name. Next one is a private string private int product cost. Simply, I want to take 3 parameters. Then here, what we have to do there? I need to get setters and getters or not. To get the setters and getters here, what we have to do there? No, click on generate. Inside these getters and setters here, we have to take select all. Click on OK button. For all setters and getters here, we are for all variables we are getting getters and setters. Then after that, here I want to take some return value like what there. Just I want to take. I don't want to return anything here. Just I want to display some value here. So here, because of that reason here, what I will do there, string I don't want to take, there I want to take void. Then I want to display all product details. How am I able to display the product details? No, not outed print enough. Product details. Now s out. Here we have to use like what their one line space here we are providing. Then after that, s out product ID plus get method is available. Get the product ID. Next one is s out of directly here we have to say product name. For this product name here we have to provide plus get the product name. Next one is not outed printer now product cost. Then plus space plus get the product cost. That what we prepared. Like this here we provided some data. So this is get the product details method. Okay, fine. Now here in a tester.java, whenever we are getting this, then what we have to do there, we should not use system.out println for this. Simply here we have to call like what their product get product details. But here my question is what there. Here my question is, if I click on, whenever we are getting this product object, there we are able to click on get the product details. Then if I execute this, then what we are able to get there? What output here we are able to get there? Observe this clearly. Product details here we are getting like this null values. But I need to provide some data to the products or not. If it is XML configuration, inside this bean tag, I can use property tag. But in the case of Java configurations, any chance to use that property tags and all? No. But observe carefully. Here we prepared this product object or not? Java code we have to write to set the data. Am I right or not? So here what we have to do there now? Tell me product dot set the product ID normal by calling set. See, inside the Spring configuration file, if you provide property tags, no, that property tags are internally executing setter methods to set the data to the bean object. That we are going to do directly. That we are doing directly, not more than that. The product dot set the PID. Say for example, I want to use P-111. Next one is a product dot set a P name. Here we are able to provide some item here, some element. AAA for example that I'm providing there. Next one is like what there? Product dot set product cost. Maybe it will be like what the 1,000 rupees. Like this we have to provide some data. Then we have to return that product object. This is almost all equal to property tags inside the Spring configuration file. Spring configuration file provided property tags will execute internally setter methods of the respective bean to set data. Whatever the data we set to the value attribute, no, same data will be set to the bean object by executing setter methods internally. But instead of doing that indirect process in Java configurations, we are doing the same data. See, if it is XML document, how much work here we have to do there? First we have to read the data from XML file. Then we have to create object. Then to this object we have to set the data. This much of work we have to do. But if it is a Java based configuration, directly container will execute Java code without reading any data from XML document. Directly it is executing this total part here. By the execution of this, automatically some data will be set to the bean object. That bean object will be written to the respective Java program there clearly. Now let us understand this point here. Observe carefully this point here. This I have used. Okay. Now here in product class, setters and getters and properties and get product details. In app config here we provided like what they know object we created for product and we set the data. In a test application, what we are going to do there? Simple. Let me run this example. There we are getting all the product details as it is. Product ID, product name, and what next one again? No, product cost. That's okay, guys. Now this is one example. But I have another question. Now inside this app config, how many methods I have written here? No. In app config class is a configuration class or not? If it is a configuration class, no. Every method is representing one bean object. Your get product method is representing one bean object. It has to return a bean object. For example, I don't like to use get product method, sir. Get product method I don't want to use. Just I want is just a method name is a product. Method name is what their product. Whenever we change this name here, respectively, we have to change the same thing in what there in a test application. Am I right or not? Then same thing here we have to written inside like what there a test application product. Observe carefully. Then we are able to execute this. Any name we can use. That depends on our requirement. What we want to use. If you want to use like get a product or simply a product, we can use either of things. But finally here we are able to get our output. Okay, fine. Now tell me, in our Spring configuration file, in a Spring configuration file, all of it understand clearly. In a Spring configuration file, is it possible to provide more than one bean configuration? For example, in my application, more than one beans I prepared. One is a student bean, product bean, employee bean, like this. 5 beans I prepared. But if you want to use them in Spring application, we have to configure them in a Spring configuration file or not. So, is it possible to provide more than one bean configuration inside the single Spring configuration file? Yes, it's a matter of using multiple bean tags. Multiple bean tags we can use so that we can provide multiple bean tags and multiple bean classes. Then container will get objects for all the bean components. We are able to get all beans into the test application. Then we are able to access them. Similarly, how we are able to prepare multiple beans in a Java-based configurations. If we want to provide multiple beans in a Java-based configurations, then what we have to do now? All of you observe carefully. First of all, I need to prepare a separate bean component. Separate bean I have to prepare. Right, sir. Now here, inside these beans, beans is what their package name. Inside these beans, right click on beans and new. I want to prepare a Java class. Another bean here I want to create. Now this time I want to prepare the bean is like what there. Say for example, what I want to provide there. Some other any bean here I want to provide. That bean should be like what there. Something else like student bean here I want to take. Anything, no issues. All right, sir. Inside the student bean, just I want to declare like what there. Private string student ID. Private string student name, then private string student address. These details here we have taken. Next one is like what there. After completion of this, I need to prepare like what there. Generate getters and setters. All of them are created. Next one is what there. Then after that, I have to provide public void get student details. Get the student details. Then inside this, then what I have to do there? Souch student details and souch line space here we are providing. Souch student ID plus then what we have to do there? Get method is available. Directly we can use a get method. Student ID and souch is student name. Then get what we have to provide there plus get s name. Next one, souch student address here we have to prepare there. Now get plus get SADDR. All the details are provided. All student details are provided here. Just we can observe this clearly. My bean is ready, but we need to provide this bean configuration or not. In a Java based configurations, appconfig.xml, appconfig.java. Inside this, I have to prepare another bean or not. With respect to the student bean, then what we have to do now, here we have to take a method, separate method. So now here public student, now here just I want to use like what is the student method name. Okay. Then inside this, then what we have to do there? Student is equal to new student. Object we created. Next one is like what the student dot. If you want to provide some data there, then what we have to do now directly we can call set methods. It's almost all equal to property tags inside the XML file. Now student dot, then what we have to do there, set SID, where we have to provide S-111. Student dot set S name, there we are going to provide like what there's something else like what the Durga, for example. Next one is a student dot set S address. Here we are able to provide like what there, address. Other details can be provided. Then after that, here what we have to do there, return student, semicolon. Now another method here we have taken. But if you want to make this method is a bean method, generating bean object, then what we have to do now? Annotated with what there? Bean. Annotated with @bean. Then automatically this method is acting as a bean method. This method is able to release some object which is required by IOC container, application context. That's it. Everything is completed there. Then what we have to do now? Now let me check this. Now here I want to go for like what there, tester.java. In a tester.java, just we got only product details. Now I want to get like what there, student details. No, I need to get student object or not. Student is equal to, then what we have to do there, context dot get bean, context dot like what there, get bean, here we have to use it. Then inside this get bean I have to provide like what there, some string. What is the string? Student. Name of the method, name of the bean method here we have to provide. When we provide name of the bean method here, what we are able to get there, cast operation here we have to perform, cast to student. Now here we are getting student now. Whenever we are getting student there we have to use like what there, get method, get the student details method here we have to provide. That's okay. Now let me check this whether we are able to get the student object or not. In app config, two methods I have taken. One method is for product, and another method is for what their student. Okay, two bean class I have taken, student bean and product bean, both I have taken. But in the test application, I tried to get both the objects from the annotation config application context. Then I'm trying to access the data from this. Now let me execute this program. Right, so now we are getting the same data or not? Product details we are getting, then as well as like what they know, student details, both the data here we are getting. So by this we can understand, depending on your requirement, how many bean components we are using in our Spring application. If you want to generate that bean objects through the Java based configurations, simply prepare a bean method inside the app config class, then return the respective bean object from this by writing some Java code. Then by that we are able to prepare any number of bean components, and by this we are able to provide any number of bean configuration details to the IOC container. Then in the test application we can access all the things. That's it guys. Now this is about like what their bean configuration. Right sir, user input to student input to how to work. I'm not getting what you are asking there. That means you want to give dynamic input, no? If you want to give dynamic input, there we have to go for either buffer data or scanner or something else we can take, and we can provide this. But the point is what there, here inside this app config object, inside this app config only we are taking this data. Now inside this app config, create student object. Now we can ask to the user here, then enter some student ID, enter some student name, enter some student address, like this we'll ask there, and user will enter the data will be taken, the data will be specified into the respective bean object. Then after that we can return that object. Anyway, then this is very simple. But remember carefully, maximum we are not going to have such type of application in the Spring framework. Maximum we are going to focus more on like what there, what is how IOC content is creating objects, how we are able to prepare the Java based configurations and like all these things. But in the console, nobody will take outputs through Spring application. So Spring applications in this sense, definitely some standard applications, it may be at the enterprise level. In enterprise level, just max we are going to work with the browsers. We are not going to work with what they know. There's a console and all these things. So just try to avoid such kind of things here. Not required to understand. Leave this content here. Now here I have a question now. What is my question now? Scopes are available in the Spring framework. Scopes are exist or not? But how we are able to implement scopes here in this case? No. Right, sir. Now, just I'm giving one orientation. We should not have any thinking about scopes in the Java based configurations. Why? Because in the previous case, in XML based configuration, who is creating bean objects actually? IOC container. Here also IOC container is creating bean objects. But we have written Java code. How to create bean object, how to set data to the bean object, and everything we have written. That IOC container is coming here and IOC container is executing this code. So bean object is created and bean object is utilized in Java applications. But if it is XML configuration, then what happened there? Just we provided bean class name and the details of the required information we provide in the Spring configuration file. IOC container will come there. IOC container will take that class names and the data, and it is creating object for the respective bean class, and it is keeping the data inside the bean class object. This is a difference between Java based and XML based. In XML based, just we are giving information so that IOC container will create object for that, and it able to keep the data inside that object. But here what we are doing here, we are written the code how to create object, everything we defined here. IOC container is simply executing this part, then it is creating object. But in XML configuration, how to create object should be taken care by IOC container. But in Java based configuration, how to create object is a guidelines coming from developers. IOC container will get the guidelines from developers by seeing this particular code here. So because of that reason, in XML configuration, how to create object is taken care by IOC container. So there is a chance to specify only one object we have to create for get bean method, or multiple objects we have to create for what they know, like prototype scopes, no, or single object we have to create for singleton scope. Like this, we are able to provide such kind of restrictions. See, for example, if you want to provide such type of restrictions here, if you want to provide such type of restrictions inside the Java based configurations, then what we are going to do now, creating number of objects is totally depending on our implementation or not. So we have to manipulate explicitly to create number of objects. In the case of XML configuration, you may specify either singleton or prototype, something else, where IOC container on the base of that it able to create number of objects. But here who is creating objects? In the case of Java based configurations, we are the developers, we are creating objects. IOC container is executing the code, then it is creating object. But that how to create object is decided by developer. So how many objects you want to get, that we can do here directly. If you want to get only one object, then maintain only one object. If you want to get multiple objects, no, then create multiple objects. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? How many times you are calling get bean method? That many number of times student method will be executed. All of you get my point or not? Let us see. Let's have some checking process here. After that, we are going to understand. See, observe carefully. Let me check it. So here what we are able to have there inside this bean, any members here we are having? Then a class okay, value okay, name okay. These are the members are available inside these annotations. Leave it. Say for example, okay, first of all, let me check it. Do you have any scope annotation? Yes, we have scope annotation. Let me check it. Yes. Inside the scope annotation, what we are able to provide? Value and a scope name. Good. Value and a scope name. Okay. Value and scope name that we are able to provide. Let me check different options here. Okay. Now here directly I want to provide some scope. What is that scope here? I want to provide there. I can go for like what there? Singleton. Let me check it. Singleton in the sense like what there? This is for what the student here we applied there. Now let me check for that. Now I don't want to display for this product. No. Singleton here I want to check here. Singleton objects here now. Multiple times here we are getting there. Student one here we specified. Now here also student one here we are providing it. But instead of displaying the student details now, just I want to say like what there assert student one semicolon. So will it work or not? No, let me check it. Second time we are calling student one, student two object here we are trying to get there. Third time we are preparing the same code. Right, sir. How many times we are calling this get bean method? No, 3 times we are calling get bean method. We have to check whether 3 objects we are getting or not, or single object we return now. As per the scope specification, at the rate scope, singleton we specified here. Singleton in the sense, same object or multiple objects now. Same object for every time calling of this get bean. Now let me check it. Observe this clearly what we are getting here, same object or not? Okay, same object. Hmm. Hmm. Just keep- just keep- Right, sir. Next one is like what I'm telling to you after completion of this. Then what we are doing there? Now in app config, just in place of this a singleton, I want to go for like what they know prototype. Prototype here I want to use. Let me check it. If you want to use prototype, then what we have to know, just click on run button here. When you click on run button, here what we are able to get there. Now tell me, same object or different objects now? Different objects here we prepared now. Observe carefully. So up to singleton and prototype, these two things are worked out here in our content here. Fine. If we provide any other one, say for example, if we provide request now, what we are expecting there? Illegal state exception here we have to get or not? It is a standalone application basically. Illegal state exception here we have to get or not? All right, so now here, if you observe this clearly, there we are able to get some exception here we have to get. Illegal state exception, no scope registered. No scope registered for scope name request. No scope registered for scope name request. Getting my point or not? So this is one point. See, we can provide even custom scopes also, but we have to do some work. What work we have to do there? First, we have to prepare like what their scope class here we have to prepare. Thread local we have to prepare. Then after that, custom scope configurer class we have to create explicitly object. Custom scope configurer. Inside this custom scope configurer, we have to declare a property with the name scopes. Then inside this property, it is a map related thing. Inside this map, we have to add what there, what we have to add there. No, or directly we have to add something else like what there, thread scope object, along with some thread name. Inside this map, we have to add that object. Then after that only we are able to check that thread scopes now. Then if you want to check it, then we will see that coding part also there maximum. Can I try for it? But so far I didn't try it for it now. Custom scopes. Shall we try for it now? Right. Let me have some work here. If you want to try for this custom scores, then what we have to do there? Now here I want to go for like what there. Just as of now single only here I want to sorry singleton. It's okay. Now let me go for the custom scopes. If you want to implement the custom scopes, then what we have to do now? First of all, here I need to go for SRC, then a new. Then what we have to provide the package, no? Then what is the package here we have to provide there? Com dot Durgasoft dot app 11 dot. Just I want to go for like what their scopes. The package name what I have taken their scopes. Okay. Then inside this I need to go for new Java class or Java class here I have to take there. Now it will be like what there custom thread local. Custom thread local that class here I have taken, but here this class should be then what we are do there extends thread local, that we have to use there. Thread local we have used. Now inside this, then what we have to know, just I will go for initialized method, initial value method. Then where I need to written like what I have to written there, hash map object here I need to written. That means one map object here we have written new hash map, then a string comma object. That method will be written. Initial value, then everything is okay, fine. Now this is about like what the thread local to generate a scope object. Scope object is what their map object. Understand this clearly. Next one here, after completion of this thread local, that's okay, that we prepared. Next one is I need to prepare a thread scope class. I need to prepare new here. I need to prepare a Java class. What Java class here we have to provide there? Thread scope. Thread scope is a class name. Now this class name must implement like what there, implements scope arg dot spring framework dot, what we have to provide there, this one here we have to implement config. Am I right or not? Then inside this, then we have to provide implementations or not. What implementations here we have to provide? Implement methods. What methods here we have to implement there? Get, remove, register, dissection, callback, resolve, contextual objects. Everything is okay, fine. Now click on OK button. Right, sir. That everything is okay, fine. We provided here. Next one. Now observe carefully here. What we have to prepare now? Now inside this, now we have to provide custom thread local. Custom thread local is equal to then what we have to prepare there now? New. That means new custom thread local here we have to prepare or not? New custom thread local object here we have to prepare. Next one is I need to prepare a map object here. I need to prepare the map where we have to provide string comma object, and then get scopes for example is equal to null here. I'm going to prepare. Why? Because this object we have to create inside the get method only. Already previously yesterday we got the same problem. Now here what we have to do there, now we have to prepare scopes is equal to, then what we have to call there, thread local dot get method. If you call, automatically hash map object will be written here now. Right, so now we have to cast to map object. That's okay. Then we are getting this scope now. From this scope we have to check whether object is available or not. To check this whether this object is available or not, object obj is equal to scopes dot get of get some key here we have to provide. What is the key here? Inside this get method, inside the get method, string name. Name is what they know in id attribute. For the bin id attribute here we provided that one here. So here also we get a name, whether this bin object is exist or not, that we have to check in the form of object. Now here what we have to do there, if obj double equals to null, a bin object is not available here. If obj double equals to null, bin object is not available, no, bin object is null, not existed, then what we have to do there, no, directly scopes dot then what we have to do, no, put name here, name comma, then we have to get that object. Which object? From where we have to get this object here, no, we have to get that object from object factory. Object factory dot get object method is available. Directly I have written the code. If that bin object is not available, get that object from what they know, object factory, and keep that object into the respective scope. That we have done there. Then after completion, after keeping that, then written what here, what we have written there, obj. That's it. Now this total content is completed. See, up to this what we have done there, no. First of all, we are trying to check whether bin object is available in the thread scope or not. If it is not available in the scope now, if it is not existed inside the scope now, then what we have to do there, then get that bin object from IOC container through object factory and keep that object inside the respective scopes. If it is available inside the scopes now, directly return that object. See, we are trying to get directly from scopes. Scopes dot get of name, in the sense, if that object is available, it will return that object reference. If object is not available, it will return null value. Okay, if obj double equals null, means that bin object is not available inside the scope. Then get that bin object from object factory, keep that bin object inside the scopes. Okay, directly written that object here. Whatever the object we put inside the scope now, that we have to return now. That's okay. That's what we completed. Then after that, now remove method also here we have to specify. Then what remove method here? First of all, here we have to check object obj is equal to then scopes dot remove of name. Name here we have to provide. Already parameter is existed. Then what is this parameter here? Yes, in place of this, yes, we have to use name. Name in the sense like what there? ID attribute value. On the base of that name, we are checking whether this object is available or not. If it is existed, just try to remove that. If it is existed, then try to remove that. Just written that object here. Remaining methods are not required. Just we can remove all these remaining methods here. Not required to understand this remaining method. That's okay, fine. My scope class is ready. Thread scope class is ready. Then after this, we need to prepare bean object for what there? We have to prepare bean object for custom scope configurer. We have to bean configuration. Custom scope configurer is a predefined class which we declared inside the XML file. Am I right or not? But XML file equivalent concept is what there here? App config or not? App config. Now here we have to prepare a bean component. What is that bean component here? We have to prepare there. Now observe carefully. Public custom scope configurer. Written custom scope configurer. We have to return this one. It's a bean object. There we have to create that. Now here we have to provide like what there? Scope configurer method. That method here we have to take. Now inside this method here, what we have to do now? We need a property. Inside this, we need a property that should be a map property. That should be a scopes property. Am I right or not? Okay, we need a property, map property, where we should enter what we have to enter there. Something else like we need to take a property in the sense like what? No, how we are able to define this property here? 1 minute. Now we need to create object for custom scope configurer. First of all, custom scope configurer. Right, sir. The same thing. Custom scope configurer is equal to new custom scope configurer object we created. After defining that, inside this custom scope configurer, there is a map property. The name of the map property is what there? Scopes. Am I right or not? So custom scope configurer dot is there any property with the name scopes here? No. Add scope name. Okay, then directly here we are able to have scope name. The scope is a property. Add scope or any other one here. Set order. Okay, not required. Set bean class loader process bean get order. It's okay. Get the scope. That's okay, fine, no problem. Then there is a method like what method here? Add scope method is existed. We need to add that scope to the particular one. Now here we need to provide scope name and scope object. Scope name is what here? What is the scope name here? Just I need to add like what there? Thread scope. Then what about the scope object here? No, the scope object is already provided. Thread scope class object is provided or not? So here we have to create that thread scope object. But how we are able to create that thread scope object here? No, 1 minute. That is also a bean. That is also a bean component. Thread scope is also a bean component here. Now here what we have to do there? Here we have to prepare again that thread scope. Now tell me, and this should be first of all. Now this must be provided like what there? It's a bean. Okay. Similarly, here I have to prepare like what there? Public thread scope method. Here we are able to provide. Inside this method, we have to create object for thread scope. Then thread scope is equal to new thread scope object we created here and return thread scope. Here no property is required here. Just object we created. Now this also be a bean at the rate bean 1 minute, guys. Now here what we have to prepare now? Here we need to create the thread scope bean object here we created. That bean object here we have to pass. But how to pass this bean object here? We are not going to create this object here, or else if we don't want to create it as a bean there, directly we can pass that thread scope. We can create directly thread scope object. Directly we can pass it. But if we create that thread scope bean, how it is possible to access this one here? If you want to get this bean object, then what we require now? Again, we require application context or annotation config is required. Through that only we are able to get it. But But directly I need to pass this object here. So directly, for example, if we are not taking this, then what we have to do there? For example, if I provide new thread scope construct, if I provide, then what will happen? Let me check this. Okay, fine. Instead of this, just I want to check this. What we have to do there? Mm, but apart from this, what we are doing there? Apart from this, this okay, no problem. Even if we maintain this, it's okay. Not at all issue. Now here we added the thread scope to like what now? This is a custom scope configurer with the name thread. Okay. Then after that, here we prepared our bean or not. What's that bean here now? Student bean. For this, what we provided, what we have to provide there, thread here we have to provide. Scope name is what there? Thread here. Almost all completed. Let me check this. The scope is what there? Thread. Let me check this. What it is going to be happen now? 1 minute. Only one thread is executing our application there. Only one bean object here we have to get. Missing return statement. Where in app config? Yeah. 1 minute. Wait. Return custom scope. Right. Okay, fine. Tester.java. Let me execute it. What is the requirement to use a hash code, guys? Anyway, first we are getting null value, but 2 times we are getting object. Same object here we are getting. Why we are getting null value here? Observe carefully. Product. Are you displaying anywhere else like product? No. Even not required this, but first time we are. Why we are getting null value? Second time and third time we are getting output. First time we are not getting output. Just give a minute of time. App config.java. We added this scope is okay. Scope thread we provided. Product is not required. Configuration is okay. Fine. Student object we applied where thread we scope we provided there. Then what next one here? New thread scope here we created object that we are returning. Scope name is thread. Return custom scope configurer. 3 times we are calling, but why sir? Why it is getting like this? First time we are getting null value. Why? 1 minute. Bean method app config scope configurer is non-static and returns an object assigned to this brings a bean factory post processor interface. This will result in a failure to process annotations such as auto void. Okay, no problem. Resource post construct. Okay, no issues. Add the static modifier to this method to avoid these container life cycles at the rate bean Java doc for complete details. Where static we have to provide the static modifier for this method. Which method it is known? Okay, I think so. It is expecting an app config. This is static. Yeah, let me check it. Right, sir. Previously, I have not done this kind of experiment. Now only I am doing this. Now let me check it. Still, we are getting null is okay, but we are getting it. Let me create another one. What we have to do there? Let me create a thread. How we are able to create thread, guys? Now tell me new thread. Then inside this, we need to go for anonymous inner class for runnable interface. Then inside this, what we have to provide there, same. But this time, no error we are getting. Now let me display the data. No error we are getting. Start method here we have to call or not? Then only thread will be started. Then only new thread will come. Then only As per our requirement, new bean object has to be created. Yeah, different objects are created, but first objects are not created. Initial object is not created, but what we have to do? What is the problem here? Hmm? See, for every thread, a new bean object is created or not? Then we achieved our requirement, but internally, why first object is not created? Out of three, no. Say for example, say for example, again, first object is null. Why, sir? Why it is happening now? Where we have done the mistake? Any mistake here in appconfig.xml? At the time of creating thread scope, for example, just wait. First object is becoming as why first object is null value we are getting there. Two objects we created, but anyway, our concept is almost all right. The first object's point of view is returning null value. Why it is not returning that exact value? Why it is returning null value in appconfig.xml in where we have to check there in a thread scope in a thread scope class what we are checking there. Scopes is equal to thread local dot get we are getting there. Object obj is equal to scopes dot get that we created. If obj double equals to null, obj double equals to null, scopes dot put okay object factory dot get object. Directly we call this method and we place it that generated value here inside this put that we are keeping that object here. That's the point here. Next one is a return object. Same object here we return. Whatever the object we are getting, same object here we return. That's okay. But any other problem here? Now just we are checking whether any object is available or not. If obj double equals to null, null in the sense no object is available, no object in the same scope, then we can understand scopes dot put of name comma object factory dot get object. Why we are getting it? Here we don't have any other content. Otherwise, we have to do one thing in at the time of creating this object, we have to create one object, we have to keep that object here explicitly. Then it will come there, initial value here if you want to get it. Hash map or else simply map object here. Map object string comma obj maybe map is equal to new hash map. Okay, semicolon. Now here map dot what we have to put there, put some name, but how do you know that name here? Name is not identified here. If you know the name, then only we can provide this, but we don't know the name here. Name is available in no appconfig.java only. There only we can see that name here. Why? Because not here. In thread scope class only we are able to get name. A parameter to this is what their name. Name we are getting there. So we should not provide there in thread local class. No, this is not the right option here. Anyway, now give some time to me. I'll implement it and I'll give that information to you. So max we completed what there thread scope also be in a custom configurations we provided. So whatever the things we have seen in the XML, no, almost all the same thing we implemented in Java based. So we are able to provide that scopes custom configurations also we provided here. Only the problem is the first object it is returning null value. When we call first time, then it is returning null value. That I don't know what is the reason for that. It is giving that null value here, but everything is okay. The coding part and everything. Objective factory. Right? Can we provide thread scope? Right. Anything remove it's okay. Scopes dot remove. Can I comment this if I'm not providing anything here? Just if I provide null value without implementing this, then is it possible to achieve the same thing? By default, maybe it is executing remove method initially for first time. No. It is not executing remove method. Obj. What obj it is providing, sir? Obj double equals null, for example. For example, if I am not using this if condition, what will happen? Every time it is creating the same object, it is providing that. Okay, let me check this. No. Scope declaration, if I take inside the method, then what will happen there? But scope declaration, if we take inside this method, what we are able to get? But here we will get in the remove method, we will get problem there. In the remove method, you will get problem. Why? Because here we have to use scope or not. Okay, if you are not using null here, for example. No, this is not the right solution. Kiran, it is not the right solution. Let me check it. If it is okay, then we will check it. No. Right, sir. It may take anyway some time there. Let me check it. Only one small issue. Somewhere else we misread. Entire thing we implemented. What we have seen in XML configuration, same thing we implemented in Java, but only one point. But our program is executed. Thread scope is applied for our thread. For every thread, a separate bean object is created here. But why it is giving first object is null? That I have to check. Let me check it once now. Then I'll give clarity of it. Okay. Thank you. And tomorrow, what about the tomorrow situation? I want to come for the class or no class? Better to come on Monday. Monday we'll continue the class. Don't worry. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Right, sir. Tomorrow no class, guys, and tomorrow don't come for the class. And day after tomorrow I'll continue our class, and day after tomorrow link will be changed, guys. And tomorrow Bhavani will send that link to you. Try to use that new link on Monday. Monday will be the new link. Yeah, I'll take break on tomorrow. No class on tomorrow. New link will come to you on Monday. Okay. Bhavani will share that link to you. Utilize this. Thank you. Thanks a lot.